Good morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the online worship service for the First Unitarian Universalist Society of Ithaca, a community that creates connection, finds inspiration, and engages the world, even in these uncertain times. Whether you're joining us for the first time, are a new or a long-term member or friend from Ithaca or elsewhere, welcome, welcome. We're glad you're joining us. We need one another. A few announcements before we begin our service. Here's Leah O'Connor from the Director of Religious Education Search Committee.
Can you hear me? Okay, good morning. Sorry about that. I am Leah O'Connor and I am sharing some information from the DRE Search Committee. We wanted to update you that our search, we have, oh my gosh, okay, start again. Welcome. We have lots of candidates really exciting candidates for the DRE Search Committee. And we wanted to update you that we have slowed the process down a little bit due to the uncertain times. But in the last week, we have picked up and we're starting interviews this week. Can people hear me? Yeah, okay. So we would like to ride on the excitement that Suzanne has brought to the program and let you know that we have a really amazing pool of applicants that we are really excited about. They're from as far as Colorado and as close as Ithaca. So we will start interviews this week and we are excited about that. Bye.
Okay. For more information about First Unitarian, our groups and activities, please visit our website, unitarian.ithaca.newyork.us, or our Facebook page. Many of our small groups, teams, and newcomer meetings are connecting via Zoom these days. Additionally, each Monday morning, we send out an email with opportunities for engagement during the week. Email office@uuithaca.org to be added to our announcement list. Let's now take a moment to say out loud or silently to yourself the name of someone or something that you are grateful for this week. I am grateful to my UU community. It's been wonderful to connect with people via Zoom and phone calls and texts in ways that we didn't do in person. What are you grateful for?
Good morning. It's good to be with you this morning. Our opening words are by my colleague, Reverend Dr. Cindy Landrum. Spirit of life and love, we gather together in different ways this morning, from computer screens, from telephones. We gather reaching out across the wires, waving from a safe distance to come together in religious community. From living room to front porch to car seat, we gather as we are able, ready to be of service to each other, to the world, ready to build the community of hope and love as we face this new morning. We are apart, but we are together, offering our love, our commitment, our hopes, and our prayers in service to one another and this world in a new way, but an old way that we come together in worship today. Whoever you are, whoever you love, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Here you belong. The flaming chalice is the symbol of mystics and heretics, artists and activists, reformers and refugees, and Unitarian Universalists everywhere. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. Now let's sing together. Our first hymn is number 100. I've got peace like a river.
I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Good morning. Welcome to Time for Wonder. So a couple of weeks ago, I wondered what changes you were going through, how you were different. Well, I've been thinking about that, and this week I have a new wonder. I'm wondering who you really are. My all-time favorite story is Alice in Wonderland. It's all about a child who is trying to figure out who she really is. A caterpillar even asks her this exact question. He says, "Who are you?" But she can't really seem to answer. You see, she's gone through so many changes in such a short period of time. She grows big, and then she's little, and then she's little, and then she's big, and it's a lot. Kind of feels like what we're going through right now. Today, I want to remind you how important it is to really be yourself. I think that that can help us get through confusing times and even help us get through Wonderland. Really though, even though Alice isn't sure who she really is, I think she shows us in her courage. She's a courageous and imaginative and curious child. And this is why I love Alice so much. When I do things that I love, like draw or collect rocks or go on adventures, I feel courageous and imaginative. And I feel like that's really who I am. I still think that it's important to try new things and learn and accept change, but I also really believe that it's important to remember who you are or find out who you really are. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself occasionally to check in with yourself. Who are you? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? What do you love doing? Are you a wildflower Even if these questions lead you to believe that you're a little bit mad or you're entirely bonkers, I have a secret for you. All the best people are. See ya.
Thanks, Suzanne. So today we will be having a new member ceremony here at First Unitarian. To become a voting member of a Unitarian Universalist congregation is to enter into covenant and into a promise with a people and a tradition that is rooted in love, compassion, and justice. Periodically throughout the church year, we welcome new members into our midst during Sunday worship. The last new member ceremony, the most recent one we had, was March 8th, which was the last time this congregation gathered in person for Sunday worship. It was also the day we danced in the aisles. Now today we will welcome 3 new members in a little different way, and you're welcome to dance at home if you'd like. Because of the circumstances we find ourselves in, we will welcome these members virtually. Then when we're finally able to gather together in person, we'll celebrate them again. If you're interested in joining as a member of First Unitarian, please be in touch with Vivi or me about your interest. Our final new member ceremony for this church year will be on May 10th, which is just in 2 weeks. Now, normally during the new member ceremony, we welcome each person, we call them forward, we offer them a gift of a rose and a chalice, we share words of promise and covenant together. And today we will do this ceremony for the first time ever on Zoom. Today we welcome 3 new members. Chuck Lyons. After marrying his high school sweetheart 28 years ago, Chuck moved to Ithaca from New Hampshire. Chuck and his spouse rescued border collies until starting a family of their own and now have 2 daughters, ages 16 and 19. Chuck is a business analyst at Cornell and loves vegan cooking, yoga, and hiking. Tim Ball grew up in Watkins Glen and has lived near Ithaca since 2005. He works as a freelance musician, primarily performing Celtic and American fiddle music, leading the Finger Lakes Fiddle Orchestra, and maintaining a private teaching studio. As a lifelong non-churchgoer, Tim began attending Fusett with his wife, Lydia, in the fall of 2019. He's always considered himself a live your values in everything you do sort of person, and is grateful to have found a community where this seems to resonate. And Lydia Dempsey grew up attending the First Unitarian Church of Rochester. She's excited to recommit to the UU community after 17 years of spiritual exploration on her own. She came to Ithaca for college and has been here ever since. Lydia enjoys board games, vegetarian cooking, meditating, and writing. She's currently working as a project manager in archiving and does volunteer mediation for CBRC. So now, Chuck, Tim, and Lydia will read the words on the letters of intention that they're signing to join the First Unitarian Society of Ithaca. We met yesterday to do this part of the ceremony. It requires that the minister or a board member are present. And so we did this over Zoom. And at some point we'll take these letters and enter them into the membership book that dates back to the 1800s. And they will join all of the other names that have signed over the generations.
I enter this faith with hope and possibility in my heart, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this congregation.
I covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this congregation and guides me. I seek your welcome as I join you in this faith.
As we continue to live into our covenant with one another, we do so with joy, friendship, and hope in our hearts. May we create connections, find inspiration, and engage the world together.
Great.
So now is the part in the ceremony where you, the members of the congregation, those of us gathered virtually today, will share in reading words together as words of welcome to Tim and Chuck and Lydia on this morning. This was an interesting process, continues to be an interesting process for us as we figure out how to be able to welcome people virtually. And the joys of technological difficulties strikes again. So stay tuned and we will have the words up to you. For now, perhaps you might take a moment of silence and reflect on the first time that you entered to First Unitarian, that you were welcomed by others. Maybe you'll reflect on the words that were spoken when you joined the congregation, the generations of people who have sat in the pews. I will read the words that we are sharing on behalf of the congregation this morning. These are words that we normally read together in our pews, but I invite you to sit quietly to reflect on them as I share them on your behalf. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas, and your vision, in times when it is easy and in times when it is difficult. We seek to be supportive, not only when you reach out in courage to us, but also when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals, and when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. As we continue to live into our covenant with one another, we do so with joy, friendship, and hope in our hearts. May we create connections, find inspiration, and engage the world together.
morning. Before I share joys and sorrows for this morning, I have a message. If you have a joy or sorrow that you would like to have shared on Sunday morning, please send them to Reverend Margaret by email, minister@uuithaca.org by 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. And bear in mind that our service is live streamed when you consider the private nature of these joys and sorrows. In a spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to share some of the joys and sorrows of our community, those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. From Peggy McKiernan, Fran Barraclaw, a long-term member of the church, is now living at Oak Hill Manor Nursing Home on Hudson Street in Ithaca. She is 97 years old and would enjoy cards, letters, and pictures from old friends. On a positive note, Fran's daughter, a retired nurse, has taken a weekend job at the facility so that she can be near her mother. From Reverend Margaret, she would like to thank everyone who sent messages of joy for her birthday this past week and all those who participated in the surprise birthday parade for her. What a feeling to be so loved, she says. And a joy from Jan Fleiderer for all the UU angels who responded to my request for a face mask. Wow, that alone is enough to lift my spirits during this difficult time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From Stephanie Ortolano, her mother-in-law, Nancy Jenkins, fell and broke her ankle on Friday. Keith is spending a few days with her. Let's send her healing energy. And from the care team, for all of you who have so generously made calls to check in on each other as we shelter in place, who have delivered groceries, sent cards, and more tasks to care for one another in our community. Random acts of kindness that pull us together. Thank you so very much. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, let us call these names out loud into this community, into this virtual space of healing and hope right now. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us not forget to extend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hands be outstretched in kindness, and let us keep showing up to our lives and each other with an open heart, no matter what. Love and courage to us all. Blessed be, and amen.
Before I share our morning meditation, the technology gods have joined us on our side, and we have exciting pictures to show you to celebrate the welcome of our 3 newest members. So welcome to Chuck and to Tim and to Lydia into this congregation that it continues to honor generations of love and compassion and justice as the Unitarian Universalist presence in Ithaca. What a joyful day. Our meditation this morning are words by Laura Mancuso, and they are a reminder of how we might care for ourselves during this time. I take care of myself first because I am deserving of exquisite care. I take care of myself to maintain the capacity to help others. I move and stretch my body every day. I spend time in nature, attuning my senses to the earth's wisdom. I ration my daily exposure to the news, I identify and access credible sources of information. I protect myself from becoming overwhelmed by information about the pandemic. I pace myself. I sit with the reality of uncertainty and impermanence and allow it to temper my desire for control. I listen without judgment to others' reactions, which may be different from mine. I forgive myself and others when stress brings out our shadow selves. I seek out healthy pleasures and indulge in them without guilt. I remind myself that feelings are transient states that move through me. They do not last, and they do not define me, nor do my thoughts. I acknowledge the strength of my connection to my sources of spirituality so that I continue to be replenished. I acknowledge the nearness of death as a key motivator for living a full life. I pray for the suffering of all beings to cease. I grieve my losses and celebrate my successes. I remain open to new ways of being, surprising sources of joy, and unanticipated discoveries every day. May we do the same. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be.
From you to you. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca. This includes full payment to staff, including sick leave for those who cannot do their work from home. This week, we are sharing the offering with Loaves and Fishes. Loaves and Fishes of Tompkins County is a ministry which provides a place for free meals, hospitality, companionship, and advocacy for those in need, regardless of their faith, beliefs, or circumstances. It serves nearly 2,700 free meals each month and about 140 meals each day. Today, we will be accepting your gifts in a variety of ways, via text, on our website, or by placing payment in the mail. You can also donate directly to Loaves and Fishes at loaves.org. May these gifts support connection, inspiration, and engagement for this congregation and the ways it ministers to the world. This morning's offering will now be gratefully given and received.
Our reading this morning are words from Enfleshed, which is an online resource that seeks to provide individuals and communities with spiritual and theological resources for liturgy, prayer, and contemplation, preaching, teaching, and consulting that speak directly to what matters most. I found these words to be particularly effective this morning. To become is a lifelong process. Nothing is constant, not even the self. We evolve in the midst of narratives meant only for some, and ways of being made narrow by fear and power. We must then have the courage to listen to the truth of our own lives, to the wisdom that comes from within, responding without resistance or need to control, but with welcome and curiosity. This is what ensures our becoming is an unfolding to our truest self. This lifelong labor cannot be carried out alone. It requires help from friends and lovers, family and creaturely companions who bear witness to what makes us come alive and say to us, listen, look, feel, pay attention to that. This is loving and being loved. Telling the stories, sharing in the memories, giving thanks for the relationships, understandings, and experiences past that have shaped us to this day. This is loving and being loved. Celebrating new beginnings that excite, holding risks together, leaning into unknowns with the promises of support and companionship. This is loving and being loved. Listening to the future calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all of life's noise, hoping to help one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what it is that the world's ache is asking of each of us. This is loving and being loved. To say for the first time, this is who I am. This is the truth of my body. This is what I know about myself. This is my name. This is where my path is leading me. And to have it heard, have it received, have it affirmed, and then to say it again and again as we change and the world changes, and to have each proclamation greeted with an open-armed embrace. This is loving and being loved. There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways, for yours. For all the saints who labored for what is, all the kin whose lives made ours possible, for all those yet to come for whom living our truths today will mean breaking possibilities open for them tomorrow. We pause, we give thanks, we acknowledge. This is loving and being loved. If I had to choose one of our core values as Unitarian Universalists that is guiding me most these days, it's the one of our 6 sources that focuses on our direct experience of transcendent wonder. In this living faith tradition, we not only value the ways that we are shaped by our experiences as individuals, but we also lift up as a collective experience those pieces of our lives that we share as religious community. Personal experiences matter. Collective experiences matter. The meaning we make from both matter immensely. and help to shape who we are and how we live in the world. Now, there are some who are doing a lot of meaning making these days, some who are helpful, others who are not so helpful. There are some who suggest that this pandemic is Mother Nature's way of hitting the reset button on a planet that is overrun with people and smog and waste. There are others who suggest that this pandemic is a way to separate the weak from the strong. There are some who suggest that this is a lesson in our interconnectedness across the globe. There are some who are suggesting it's caused by cell phone towers or vaccines or international warfare. Some of these are conspiracy theories, others are conjecture, others are based in generations-old systems of power and oppression. Whatever reason you might believe this is all happening, the reality is that it's happening to all of us. We are all, across the globe, young and old, all races and ethnicities, all languages, experiencing this life-changing event in the history of the world. We are all experiencing fear and worry in varying levels and intensities, but shared all the same. We are all experiencing limitations on our daily lives. We're all experiencing grief and loss. We are all experiencing collective trauma and chronic stress. And each of us will find and make meaning of all of that in our own ways. There are sure to be some patterns and recurring themes of how we make meaning, but overall, each of us will tell the story of these days with our own flavor and flair. Now, much of how we make meaning in our lives and share our experiences is through story. So I'm curious what stories you are gathering in these days. What are the stories that are sticking with you? Are they images of buses, of medical staff traveling to New York City, of crowds cheering at the shift change at our hospitals? Are they stories of the piles of masks made by the mask makers? Does the story include moments at home with your family, reconnecting to each other, to your home life? Does the story include quiet moments of self-reflection? Up until now, many of us have told our life story through the lens of accomplishment. This degree, that job, when we moved here or there for work or family or some other opportunity. We define ourselves by the things we have accomplished or the things we do or our productivity in the world. And now we have an opportunity to expand the ways we define ourselves, the ways we identify. We have an opportunity to enhance the story with more about who we are at our core, the things we have learned about ourselves when so much of the doing and the productivity need to be set down for a little while. In our reading this morning, we learned that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. This is loving and being loved. Perhaps that's part of our collective learning in this process. We're in the process of finding ourselves through shared becoming, through shared experience. We are experiencing what it means to be loving and loved. Now, this is always happening. It's like an undercurrent beneath us, but now, for some of us, perhaps for some of us for the first time, we might actually have a chance to notice it, to acknowledge it, to learn from it. Mark Twain once said, "The two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." Now, this sounds to me like one of those quotes that would be on an inspirational poster, maybe with like a cat, like a kitten hanging off a tree, or maybe there would be a picture of a large mountain with a sunset and a person standing at the base with a single path clearly leading to the peak, or maybe like the beginning of a movie with Morgan Freeman's voice piped in, The two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Now, if you're like me, there hasn't been one day where you miraculously learned why you were born. If you're like me, you might also have a rational idea of the reason you were born. Science and biology and reproductive systems play major roles in it. If you're like me, you're still waiting for that, aha, this is my purpose moment. Your burning bush, your holiday ending, Hollywood ending, maybe on a holiday. You get the idea. I have a feeling we're going to be waiting for a long time for such moments, for Morgan Freeman's voice to narrate our lives. But if you're like me, then you've had some moments in your life where there's a faint whisper that might suggest reasons that your presence on this earth matter. Perhaps they've happened at the bedside of a loved one who's dying. Perhaps on the day your child was born. Perhaps when you've been teaching a student who was struggling or listened to a friend tell a difficult story. Perhaps in a quiet moment while walking in the woods or in the sound of your own laughter and deep joy. These are the moments of becoming, of reconnecting, of meaning making in a world that is noisy and distracting. Our reading this morning calls to us to listen to the future calling uniquely to each of us in the midst of all of life's noise, helping one another find our place in the shared labor of collective life, supporting each other in what it is the world's ache is asking from us. What is this aching world asking of you? How will you answer? Perhaps in this moment of collective grief and worry, your answer looks like a big dose of self-care. Perhaps it looks like sewing a mask, baking a cake, sending a card. Perhaps today your response to the aching of the world is to connect with the aching in your own heart for a while, to feel it fully. Perhaps tomorrow it looks like going through an old box of photos and telling the stories that have shaped your life, finding the pieces of foreshadowing, of resiliency and hope that have helped you through to this point. So often we focus on the big events in our lives, the weddings, the birthdays, the promotions, when in reality, life is mostly made up of completely mundane and daily tasks and experiences. Right now, we are learning that in big, big ways. And we are actively doing something huge. By staying home and staying physically apart, we are shifting the trajectory of this disease and in turn, its impact in our community and the world. So settle in. Take a deep breath and reconnect to the parts of yourself that are curious. Settle into the pieces of your soul that yearn for comfort and for love. This is what it means to be living and loving and loved. This is what it means to live your life with meaning and purpose, to slow down, to notice, to listen deeply to the message. Mary Oliver, amazing poet, one of my favorites who died this past year, shares these thoughts about all of this. Perhaps one of her shortest poems. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
This is my song. in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
I hope that you will join us for some time of connection during our coffee hour immediately following this service. Again, to close our service, thank you to all those who were involved today. Excuse me. To close, words of Mary Oliver. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. We extinguish this chalice, but not the hope, love, and courage that it represents. We carry our love and our courage out into this beautiful and broken world. Our service is now ended. Let our true service now begin. Go in peace.